There's enough articulate, intelligent, well-spoken autistic people on YouTube. So I take that as permission to let it rip. I'm really bubbling over today. I apologize in advance, but I feel like I've just got to the point where I can't deal with it any longer. I can't handle this idea that I'm broken, that I'm different, that I'm not accepted. I'm just sick of it. From my point of view only, I just think early intervention therapies we throw on autistic kids and autistic adults is a complete waste of time, and it's offensive, and I'm sick of it. They don't work. I've had enough. It's time to talk.
And now, here's your neurologically different host, Orion Kelly.
Hey, I'm Orion Kelly and I'm autistic. I was diagnosed autistic as an adult, and since then, I've decided to devote my time to advocating for autistic people and making the world a better place for the autistic community. So to achieve that, I do blogs, podcasts, and these YouTube videos. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, will you take the time to subscribe to my channel? I'd really appreciate it if you'd click that subscribe button and that notifications bell so you never miss another episode. As always, you're free to reach out to me on my socials, like the Orion Kelly page on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and check out my website, orionkelly.com.au, where you'll find all my podcasts, all my videos, and everything about me, and you can even reach out and say hey. All right, let's do this. And I want to be very clear, I am providing you my own personal opinions through my own personal experiences as an autistic person, in addition to that, as a dad of an autistic son. I'm not asking you to agree with my opinions. I'm not trying to offend you. I'm just sharing my own personal insights and experiences as a way of improving understanding and acceptance of autistic people. Okay, why early intervention therapies for autism don't work. Now, all intervention therapies provided for autistic people come, for the most part, straight after diagnosis. So let's talk about diagnosis and therapies and how they intertwine. As an adult, when I was diagnosed with autism, I wasn't really automatically referred to or provided access to any types of interventional therapies, nor do I remember it being recommended. But for my son, a lot different. I found that soon as our son was diagnosed as autistic, it was almost a given that you would enroll your autistic child, in early intervention therapies. And here in Australia, where my family lives, there's a thing called the NDIS, the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Now, how it works is you apply clearly as a person with some form of disability, and you, if accepted, receive funding to help you with your disability. We applied for our son. He was accepted to receive funding. Now, it's 12 months of funding, and then it's reassessed every 12 months, presumably because you can grow out of autism. He only needs 12 months. In 12 months of therapies, he won't be autistic anymore. You can't grow out of autism. Autism doesn't get easier. If you're born autistic, you die autistic. But hey, I'd love to prove I'm autistic every 12 months for the rest of my life. Yeah! What we also found out, for the most part, all the intervention therapies recommended by healthcare professionals are covered under the funding of the scheme. Now, to me, that shows a heavy focus on intervention therapies. It's much harder for funding for other things in our case. There's certainly funding for things that are therapy-based. So there's a focus there on getting autistic kids into interventional therapies. My core issue with interventional therapies for autistic people is autism is not a disease. It cannot be cured, nor should it be cured, nor do I want it to be cured, by the way. It is a neurological difference that is classed as a disability. So in my view, therapy is designed to change or alter the way an autistic person acts, are only designed to make neurotypical people feel more comfortable. Seriously, how would you feel if you were diagnosed with autism and after the diagnosis you were told you need urgent, immediate, and long-term intervention via therapies to make you better? Let's talk about the purpose of early intervention therapies for autism. And again, this is through the lens of me, an autistic adult with an autistic son. For starters, the word intervention, it doesn't sound especially nice, it's an offensive term to intervene, to intrude, to mediate, to come in and stop someone and say, no, you're wrong, you're broken, you need to be fixed, you need our help, right? Like staging an intervention. Oh, okay, your son's autistic. Okay, stop. We're intervening now. In essence, it kind of feels like our own community are calling us visitors to their neurotypical planet. Because let's be clear, all these interventional therapies have been devised, funded, implemented, carried out by, for the most part, neurotypical people. Neurotypical people are telling us what we need to do as autistic people to be like them. And in our case with our son, we have to submit regular goals that we want our autistic son to achieve in order to receive and continue to receive the funding for the early intervention therapies. And in the end, the only goals that are accepted or looked on favorably are goals that help neurotypical people. My goal for my autistic son, my goal for me is to live a life where I'm being my true self, to be genuine, to be unique. That's a goal. I not only have to accept therapies designed to rehabilitate me, because it's intervention therapies, I've actually got to come up with the forms of rehabilitation I require in the therapies. The goals and the therapies tell me I'm not accepted, I'm not valued by the community, and I need to change to fit in to the neurotypical world. How is any of this supposed to make an autistic person feel good? Think about any minority. You're different. If you want to be with us and live in our world, live in our country, you better change. Early intervention therapies for autism are nothing more than acting classes and classes in assimilation, to act, to be like a neurotypical person. Because being our true autistic selves isn't good enough for you. Autistic people are being asked to provide goals, to get funding, to do therapies, to assimilate them into the community. I'm sorry, I am not trying to offend, but these are my opinions and my insights as an autistic person with an autistic son who feels like enough is enough. Early intervention therapies or therapies of any kind for autistic people are in general nothing more than acting classes designed for us to assimilate into a community that does not accept us. Okay, let's go through just 2 examples of the various intervention therapies on offer. Speech therapy is a great example of an early intervention therapy for autistic people. Now, you probably already know a bit about speech therapy. Of course, clearly it helps with speech, with verbal skills. But for autistic people, speech therapy provides a lot more services. Okay, clearly, so there's the speech side. As an autistic child, you can go to speech therapy to create a broader understanding of neurotypical communication. So non-verbal cues, verbal cues, tone, body language. Basically, speech therapy is used to teach autistic people how to communicate better with neurotypical people, not autistic people. My question is, why do we need to learn how to communicate better with neurotypical people? Why can't neurotypical people learn how to communicate better with autistic people? Because if the answer is autistic people are the minority, so we have to learn how to communicate with neurotypical people, and therefore we have to go through all the classes, all the interventional therapies, just so you feel more comfortable when we communicate, when we interact. Something's wrong, right? There's a breakdown somewhere. If not, then all it makes me feel like is I was born differently, but this is not a world for me. I can't be myself here. I shouldn't be here. Either be like us or get out. Neurotypical people learn new languages like a hobby. We are being forced to learn a new language, to learn a new form of communicating, a new way of interacting with neurotypical people. Because the neurotypical community in general has decided our way of communication is unacceptable, and we simply must change to fit in. It's discrimination. And you know what's worse? It's packaged up in the way that it would be discriminatory not to provide these therapies to autistic people. Not allowing someone who is different to be themselves and live with their differences in freedom like everyone else. That's discriminatory. Never being able to be yourself around people, because they'll take you the wrong way. Never being your true self, never feeling loved, valued, or comfortable within the community. That's discriminatory. The last form of early intervention therapy I want to discuss is occupational therapy, or OTs. Now, again, in just my experience as an autistic person with an autistic son, OT for autistic people seems to focus on the manifestations of sensory overloads, or outbursts, or autistic meltdowns. Basically, to me, the focus of OT with autistic people seems to be as a result of neurotypical people feeling very uncomfortable around autistic people when they be autistic. Simply put, in general terms, neurotypical people do not accept autistic people when they are being autistic. It's a classic case of conditional acceptance. There is nothing more conditional than this. You can be autistic as long as you don't be autistic around me. In my own personal experience as an autistic person and with my autistic son, my insight in OT therapies with autistic kids and autistic adults is its goal is to teach you how to mask your true self, how to act neurotypical in your moments of genuine autisticness to neurotypical people. Sensory overload, outbursts, meltdowns. It tries to teach an autistic child who is having a sensory overload or is having an autistic meltdown how to act neurotypical in those environments. It's teaching masking. It's teaching acting. It's teaching suppression of your true self for being your true self. It's saying to autistic kids, everything about the way you see, experience, and react to the world is wrong, and I'm going to train that out of you. You're going to react like us. And I understand I'm getting a little bit emotional, fired up, but let me tell you, if you took your 6-year-old child to someone and they spent the entire time when they are being themselves, teaching them how to not, how would you feel? In my experience, OT for an autistic person teaches that autistic person who has a different brain, an autistic brain, how to act like they have a neurotypical brain in their most vulnerable, most overwhelmed, most sensorily overloaded times. Not when they're relaxed, not when we're comfortable, no. When we're at that moment that neurotypical people don't like, when we're overloaded, when we're having an outburst or a meltdown or a shutdown. In those moments, in those high stress, vulnerable moments, that's when we're expected to actually control our brain. When we're having uncontrollable responses, control our brain and turn it off and change it. Just flick that switch to the neurotypical brain. How do you expect an autistic child to control their brain in a way they can actually override their brain and act neurotypical when they're having an uncontrollable action? Now, the argument, on the other hand, is that OT actually teaches parents and autistic kids how to identify causes that lead to sensory overload, that lead to meltdown, that lead to shutdown, that lead to outbursts, to avert those things happening before they happen by identifying the causes. For starters, I applaud any mentality of therapy that focuses on causes rather than actions. But again, I would argue this only works in theory. And it goes back to my argument that a lot of these therapies, the way they're done and the way they're studied, are some hundreds of years old, and for the most part have been developed, have been identified, funded, implemented and carried out by neurotypical people with no genuine or actual insight into what it's like to live with an autistic brain. In practice, and I can say this because I'm autistic and I have an autistic son, once you reach the point where you can identify that you're starting to feel overloaded, that sensorily it's too much, or you're starting to feel like a shutdown or a meltdown, or your body is starting to feel a bit uncomfortable. It doesn't matter. You can identify you are about to feel overloaded, or you are starting to feel overloaded, or you feel like you're going to have a meltdown. You can identify those things. But once you get to that point, I can tell you in my own personal experience, and certainly my son's experience, you don't want to use tools you've been told. And even if you did, it doesn't work. See, the tools you're taught to avert these things are done in an environment where you're actually not having those actions. Once an autistic child is actually overloaded from a sensory point of view, or is having a meltdown or about to have a meltdown or is getting to that, are you racing a bit fast kind of thing, it doesn't really matter. All right, lay on the ground, mate. Come on, you're about to have a meltdown. No worries. What do we learn? Okay, you're a pizza. I'm going to roll you out. Oh, get off me, Dad. What are you talking about? The bottom line is, in my experience, once an autistic child or autistic person has got to that moment of feeling overwhelmed, they're unwilling or unable to use those tools to avert what's coming. And for the most part, this is because you are trying to use tools given to you by neurotypical people to avert an action caused by an autistic brain that is actually intrinsically uncontrollable. We're trying to teach people to control something that is intrinsically uncontrollable. And frankly, the tools we are teaching autistic people to identify or avert shutdowns and meltdowns and sensory overloads and outbursts are really nothing more than forms of masking, forms of suppression, forms of acting. Because we're not going into their brain and rewiring it. We're just teaching them how to mask it, how to bury it, how to push it back down. And guess what? When you teach an autistic child or an autistic adult ways to mask and suppress and push down things that they're starting to feel because they've identified they're starting to feel a bit like it's a bit too much for them, it only makes it worse. This is not to say that therapies such as OT, physio, speech pathology don't have their place. I said they don't work and why they don't work. We need to have a better way of helping autistic people live their best life. But the goal for your funding level, the goal is to live your true self, to enjoy your life, to feel accepted by the community, not an outcast. So what's the best therapy? What would I suggest is the best form of therapy for autistic people? Well, as we've spoken about, it certainly isn't intervening to break down, fix, or change an autistic person from their true selves. It's acceptance. That might sound simplistic, but if people genuinely understood autistic people and genuinely understood the cause of why they do things that might make neurotypical people feel uncomfortable, then I hope that would somehow lead to an acceptance, a broader general acceptance of autistic people for who they are. As an autistic adult, I can tell you, I'm tired. I don't mean like I need a bit of sleep. I mean, I'm tired. Having to suppress, never feeling like I'm enough, never feeling like people truly accept me for me, never feeling like people actually want the real me, always feeling like I've got to explain myself, or trying to work out why being honest is bad, why people want honesty, but when they get it, they get offended. I don't know how much longer I can handle this type of lifestyle. It's a suppression on a daily basis. That's all it is. Suppress your true self to make neurotypical people feel better in a world I was born into too. It's actually expected of me on a daily basis to learn, observe, and to act like neurotypical people so I can use those observations to better fit in to a world designed for neurotypical people, certainly not designed for me. It's tiring on a level that I can't explain. Every day, I study the neurotypical world and I'm forced to mask, to suppress, to act, so I fit in to the neurotypical world in the hope they'll accept me, which never works. How much time do neurotypical people spend in any respect trying to better understand autistic people? I'm apologizing for my differences on a daily basis. I'm different, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, he's autistic. Oh, don't take it personally, he's autistic. Seriously, I've got to say I'm sorry because I was born different. Autistic people do not need interventional therapies, intervention to live their best lives. To live my best life, for my 6-year-old autistic son to live his best life, I need acceptance. I can tell you, in my experience, watching my own son go through these early intervention therapies, and in essence, for the most part, be taught how to simply mask and suppress his true self so he comes across a bit more normal, is absolutely heartbreaking. He was born with a different brain. That makes him different. Why are we intervening on his different brain? I get all autistic people are different. Not a single autistic person is the same. Some have more challenges than others. Some need certain therapies. But in my experience and in my view, early intervention therapies for autism don't work. And they can have a profoundly detrimental impact on an autistic person's well-being. Now, if this video has whetted your appetite to want to learn more about what it actually feels like to be autistic, well, I've got 3 videos you should watch. What it feels like to be autistic, part 1, 2, and 3. Just click and check them out now.